March 18, 1945. Just past midnight. The Rhine River, near Viersen, Germany. A cold rain needles down through the black pines. The only light is the faint red glow of a blackout lantern and the occasional orange flash of distant artillery miles to the south. Private First Class Gilbert Seltzer is on his knees in the mud, both hands frozen around the valve of a rubber bladder the size of a small house. Air hisses in. Slowly, impossibly, the thing swells into the unmistakable shape of an M4 Sherman tank. 30 tons of steel that isn't steel at all. He can feel his pulse in his teeth. 1 mile east, across the black water, German sentries pace the dikes with machine pistols. One careless clank of metal, one cough too loud, and 88mm shells will scream across the river and turn this night into a slaughterhouse. Seltzer leans close to the man beside him. "Slow the compressor," he whispers. "Let it breathe like a real engine warming up." The compressor throttles down. The rubber monster sighs into shape. Around them, in a farmer's field that smells of turned earth and cordite, 200 more inflatables are rising from the darkness. Tanks, half-tracks, 155mm guns, even a field hospital tent city. By dawn this pasture has to look like the forward assembly area for 2 entire American divisions. Tonight, the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, the Ghost Army, has to become the biggest lie the European theater has ever seen. But how in God's name did a unit full of painters, stage designers, and recording engineers end up holding the hinge of the final offensive in their trembling, paint-stained hands? Cut back 2 years. January 1943. A smoky conference room in the old munitions building, Washington, D.C. Colonel Ralph Ingersoll, former Fortune editor and one of the sharpest minds in Allied deception, slams a folder down in front of a table of skeptical generals. "Gentlemen, the British just ran Rommel out of Egypt with plywood tanks and loudspeakers. We're fighting the same enemy with the same brain. We need an American unit that can make the Germans see ghosts." The room goes quiet. Ingersoll lays out the blueprint. Inflatable armor that can be set up in hours and vanished in minutes. Sonic deception. Massive speakers broadcasting the roar of divisions that don't exist. Radio spoof. Actors impersonating generals, leaking fake orders. And visual misdirection so perfect that Luftwaffe reconnaissance pilots will swear on their iron crosses that they saw Patton himself having breakfast under those canvas tents. The plan is approved in weeks. Recruitment begins in secret. They raid the Art Students League in New York. They pull sculptors out of ad agencies on Madison Avenue. They drag sound engineers away from Broadway and Bell Telephone Laboratories. Future fashion legend Bill Blass is yanked from Parsons School of Design. Ellsworth Kelly, the painter who will one day hang in the Whitney, is handed a uniform and told to report to Pine Camp, New York. Gilbert Seltzer, 28-year-old architect from Brooklyn, gets the call while he's drafting bomb shelters. The voice on the phone is smooth, almost amused. "Mr. Seltzer, how would you like to help design something the enemy will never forget?" He thinks it's a joke. Until the orders arrive stamped top secret. Fast forward to the Rhine. 3:17 a.m., March 19th. The last dummy tank is up. 600 rubber phantoms now stand in perfect rows, their canvas tracks already scarred with bulldozer chains to look like real traffic. Lieutenant Al Albrecht, former Milwaukee radioman, kneels beside a half-track loaded with 2 3500-watt speakers the size of coffins. He flips the switch. For the first time, the night comes alive. A low growl rolls across the water, hundreds of Maybach engines idling in the cold. Then the clatter of tracks. Shouted orders. A sergeant yelling at a private for dropping a crate of 75mm shells. Every sound recorded months earlier in the pine forests of New York, mixed with real battlefield noise captured outside Aachen. The illusion is perfect. Even Seltzer, who helped build the damn things, feels his skin crawl. Across the river, a German listening post scribbles frantically. "Massive American armor concentration opposite Viersen sector. Estimate 2 divisions preparing assault crossing." The bait is taken. But the night is far from over. Cut to Camp Forest, Tennessee, summer 1944. The 23rd is learning its deadly craft. They have 90 days to turn artists into soldiers and soldiers into liars. At 2 a.m. they inflate an entire armored regiment under blackout conditions. At 3 a.m. they deflate it and vanish before dawn patrol. They rehearse atmosphere, actors in jeeps wearing the shoulder patches of the 4th Armored Division, roaring through French villages, buying drinks, bragging about the big push that never comes. Bill Blass paints a 3-star flag on a jeep bumper and practices saluting like he's seen George Patton do it in newsreels. They learn that deception is 10% rubber and 90% acting. And they learn fear. Because every operation is a tightrope over real bullets. Back to the Rhine. Dawn, March 19th. A dirty gray light seeps across the water. Seltzer stands on a haystack, binoculars pressed to his eyes. The first German reconnaissance plane, a slow, ugly Fiesler Storch, buzzes low over the dummy positions, engine popping like a motorcycle. Every man in the field freezes. If that pilot sees the seams in the rubber, if he notices there are no heat signatures from engines, if he radios back deception equipment, the entire 9th Army assault at Wesel collapses and thousands of Real GIs die in the water. The Storch circles once. Twice. Seltzer's mouth is cotton. Then the plane banks south and disappears. Albrecht exhales so hard his knees buckle. They've bought another hour. But the Germans are not fools. They know something big is coming. They just don't know where. And the Ghost Army has to keep selling the lie for 72 more hours. Cut to their darkest moment, September 1944, the fortress city of Metz. Operation Casanova. The Ghosts are ordered to convince the Germans that the 90th Infantry Division is about to force a crossing of the Moselle River. They set up inflatables at night, speakers blaring, flash canisters simulating muzzle blasts. It works too well. A German battle group counterattacks in force, believing they've caught the Americans in the open. Shells rain down. Rubber tanks burst like blood blisters. For 6 hours the artists fight as infantry. Real rifles, real screams, real death. 2 ghosts are killed. 7 wounded. Seltzer drags a bleeding sound man into a ditch while 88s walk the field. That night he writes in his diary, "We learned tonight that illusions can kill you just as dead as the truth." The Rhine, March 20th. Noon. German artillery has found the range. The first salvo lands long, throwing mud and shredded rubber 50 feet into the air. The second is short. The third is dead on. A direct hit vaporizes an inflatable M10 tank destroyer. The concussion knocks Seltzer flat. For a moment the field is chaos. Men running, speakers toppled, the perfect illusion cracking under high explosive. Albrecht crawls through the smoke, rights a speaker, and cranks the volume. Now the soundtrack is hell itself. Men screaming for medics, officers shouting contradictory orders, the roar of burning gasoline that isn't really burning. It's the final touch, the sound of an army being destroyed exactly where the Germans want it destroyed. Across the river, Field Marshal Montgomery's intelligence staff intercepts frantic German radio traffic. Heavy American losses at Viersen. Recommend commitment of 116th Panzer Division to counterattack. The trap snaps shut. 15 miles south, the real assault boats of the 30th and 79th Divisions slip silently into the Rhine under smoke and darkness. Almost unopposed. Back in the dummy hell, Seltzer's ears ring. Shrapnel has torn a hole in his field jacket. He laughs, actually laughs, because he's still alive and the lie is still working. But the afternoon is young. German infantry are probing now. Small patrols slipping across the river in rubber boats, trying to confirm the kill. If they reach the field and kick a rubber tire, the game is over. Seltzer gathers what's left of his platoon behind a shattered barn. "Listen up," he says, voice raw. "We hold the line until 2200 tomorrow. After that, we vanish like we were never here. But until then, we are the 79th Infantry Division. Act like it. Fight like it, if you have to." He checks his watch. 34 hours to go. And somewhere out in the rain-soaked fields, German scouts are already moving through the smoke, getting closer with every heartbeat. The ghosts are about to be tested by men who kill for a living. March 21st, 1945. Late afternoon. The Rhine near Viersen. The field looks like the end of the world. Hundreds of rubber corpses lie gutted and deflated across the mud. Black smoke coils from burning pyrotechnic pots that were never meant to fool anyone this close. The air reeks of cordite, wet canvas, and something sweeter, the chemical smell of melted rubber. Gilbert Seltzer crouches behind the stone wall of a half-collapsed cowshed, carbine across his knees. His hands are black with grease and someone else's blood. His ears still ring from a shell that landed 10 yards away an hour ago and turned Corporal Fred Fox into red mist. The speakers are mostly gone now, smashed by direct hits. The few that still work wheeze out a dying loop, a sergeant begging for a medic, over and over, like a broken record from hell. Across the river, the Germans have committed. The 116th Panzer Division, what's left of it, is rolling north on every road that leads to Viersen. Panzerfausts, half-tracks, gray-coated infantry soaked to the bone but moving fast. They want to finish what they started. They want prisoners to interrogate. They want proof that they've stopped the American assault. And right now, 38 very real American artists, actors and sound men are the only things standing between the Wehrmacht and the truth. Seltzer keys the handset on the spoof radio set one last time. This is Cyclone 6 to Cyclone Maine. We're taking heavy fire. Request immediate air support, grid 447. Repeat, immediate. He uses the real call signs of the 79th Division. He uses the voice of a man who is about to die. Because someone on the other end has to believe it. Somewhere in a German command post, a signals officer rips the message off the teleprinter and runs it to his colonel. The colonel smiles for the first time in weeks. They have the Amos exactly where they want them. 15 miles south, the real 79th and 30th Divisions are already across the Rhine, bridges snaking behind them, Patton's tanks roaring inland. The road to Berlin is cracked wide open. But here, in this ruined pasture, the bill is coming due. Dusk bleeds into the sky like an open wound. Seltzer counts his men. 29 left unhurt. 6 walking wounded. 3 who will never walk again. They have 2 working machine guns, for bazookas with 6 rockets between them, and a crate of gammon grenades filled with plastic explosive. Enough to make a noise. Not enough to stop a regiment. Albrecht crawls up beside him, face streaked with soot. "Gil," he whispers. "They're in the treeline. I saw helmets." Seltzer nods once. He's been expecting this. "Atmosphere team," he says into the gloom. "Last act, boys. Make it convincing." 6 men, actors from Broadway and the Yale Drama School, pull on the shoulder patches of the 79th Infantry. They smear more blood, pig's blood from a local butcher, on their uniforms. They limp into the open, screaming, dragging wounded comrades, waving their arms at an imaginary rescue force that will never come. A German machine gun opens up from the woods. Tracers snap overhead, red and lazy. One of the actors, a kid named Tony Young who once played Romeo off-Broadway, takes a real round through the thigh and goes down hard. His scream is no longer acting. Seltzer swears under his breath. That's when the first German assault boat noses into the shallows 50 yards away. Cut back, one last time, to the secret that made all of this possible. December 1944. A freezing warehouse outside Stratford-upon-Avon, England. The Ghost Army is rehearsing for the endgame. They know the Rhine is coming. They know the final deception has to be flawless. In the warehouse, under bare bulbs, Colonel Billy Harris, their commanding officer, a gentle Texan who looks more like a college professor than a soldier, gathers the unit for the briefing no one will ever write down. "Gentlemen," he says quietly, "when we cross into Germany, there will be no more room for mistakes. The enemy will be desperate. Desperate men see through tricks. So we give them something bigger than a trick. We give them a martyr." He unrolls a map. Operation Viersen. The greatest special effects show on Earth. They will simulate not just an army, but an army being destroyed. They will bleed fake blood until the Germans smell victory. And then they will disappear, leaving nothing but scorched earth and a story the enemy will tell itself for the rest of the war. Harris looks around the room at the tired, brilliant, terrified faces. I won't lie to you, he says. Some of us won't be coming home from this one. But every minute we hold their attention is a minute real American boys get to live. So paint your masterpieces, boys. Mix your soundtracks. And when the curtain falls, take your goddamn bow. Back to the Rhine. Nightfall, March 22nd. The Germans are across in force now, 2 companies, maybe 3. They move carefully, the way veterans move when they think the enemy is finished but aren't quite sure. Seltzer's men have pulled back to the final strongpoint, a cluster of farm buildings ringed with concertina wire and the last of the inflatable decoys rigged with demolition charges. The plan is simple and brutal.